Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'm discussing my thoughts on episode 1 of the anime series Norn9, Norn+Nonet, or Norn+Nonet. I'm not exactly sure what the pronunciation is. This was a series, when I went into looking at the 2015 winter anime season PVs and everything, and was putting together a list, I marked this particular series as a curiosity. I definitely wanted to check out the first episode, because looking at the PV, there were certain aspects that reminded me of a series I put up a full series review of a little while ago now, called Shangri-La, especially with the main character. The MC of this particular series is a girl with sort of pink hair, and in that series it was very much the same. There was this futuristic sort of post-apocalyptic aspect to it, and just, the way the world looked and everything like that. There were similarities. And now, having subsequently watched the first episode, I was also reminded of another anime series I covered in episodic reviews by the name of Galilei Donna. In the character design and the backdrop, once again, especially this sort of pod ship you see at the start or middle point of the episode that looks kind of like a fish and everything like that. And just things like that really appealed to me. And I also was really I found myself really thoroughly enjoying the entirety of the episode, the calmness and the mysterious, enigmatic air that was surrounding all of these events. Getting to know Koharu as she finally sort of remembers is her name. She's not an, amnesiac person by nature. She's kind of stumbling around the woods, apparently on the surface of the earth or the world or whatever the planet, happens to be in this particular framework. And she's hearing this voice, it's the sort of narration that we're hearing as well, by someone she purports later as having been a stranger to her. Apparently something, a tragedy unfolded in her childhood that seems to have been born out of an almost fire starter ability. And all of these characters apparently have abilities. And it's almost like, once they reach almost adulthood, age 17, 18, that kind of thing, I guess there's like an awakening. It's kind of like the X-Men mutant thing where once you hit puberty, it kind of awakens in you. And apparently she was already told there's this grand ship that will come calling for you, will send people to come looking for you. And she was kind of wandering, amidst this backdrop, looking for this ship. Now she's going to the water, and I think maybe she had misinterpreted that it was going to be an actual sailing vessel or something along those lines, because she's very sort of taken aback when she meets primarily Kakaru, who is like Mr. Pimp. He's trying to get with her and everything, or at least be the smooth mover and everything like that. And but it's very interesting. They basically are there to pick her up from the surface world and bring her beyond what she refers to as like a boundary. There's like this energy sort of, I don't know, shield or protectorate type thing, around the world maybe, or around her town where she grew up and everything like that, or where she finds herself. And this ship, basically spirits them out of this to what might be like an orbital sort of space station, spaceship kind of thing called Norn. And I just loved the animation, the look of the world. There were aspects that also kind of reminded me, it's something I'm always attracted to when a series kind of reminds me of classic Final Fantasy RPG kind of games and things like that. And not quite steampunk, but there's a magical element to the world, the way it looks and everything like that. There's an almost, old school European vibe to the architecture and such like that, as well as a mesh of some hundreds of years old Japanese buildings, at least where she was taken from. And there seems to be a parallel, or I should say a contrast, but also a parallel in these worlds. There is an abundance of nature, but it's wintry time. It's kind of like that depressive aspect of nature in the world she leaves behind, and then she's taken aboard this ship and it's all spring. You have cherry blossoms in bloom, and it's just gorgeous and beautiful. And where the contrasts also come in, it's architecturally and sort of, I think, based on what we're seeing technologically, because it seems almost as though there isn't much technology in the world she is now leaving behind, and having been taken aback by this ship and the magic powers Kakaru uses, you know, basically manipulating sort of the plants, a la Poison Ivy from the Batman's Rogue Gallery, you know. It's just really interesting, all of these aesthetics as they mesh together, and it seems as though, per her calling back these flashbacks that she has, this fire starter ability, this is something in you know, her. This is something born out of her. Maybe this fire, you know, explosive ability is what her power is. And we are introduced to a whole bunch of other characters, all of which, you know, from right off the bat, seem either charming or interesting. There's banter between them and everything like that, and just, you can see that it feels like an established world. It doesn't feel like we're having to get introduced to all of these characters. Like, they all know each other. They all are just sort of going with the motions, and they knew they had to pick up this new girl. And I like all of it. I like her being introduced to this world. I like that you have the one character who's like, well, we're not going to, you know, info dump everything on you right now. We got to pace it out a little bit. Let's take you back to your place, you know, to your room. We'll get you the futon out and everything. You can rest. And of course, Kakaru wants to take her on a tour the next day, introduce her to a couple of other people. Now, it's also interesting that most of these people seem likable from right off the bat. And I find it an interesting parallel and contrast, once again, when you're introduced to Senri, who is kind of a dick. Like, apparently he has himself holed up in his little apartment, his digs, his house, whatever it is. I don't know if the entire place is his on his own, but, you know, they know well enough that he likes to have his food delivered. He doesn't want to deal with people, and, like, he doesn't even want to, you know, entertain the notion of meeting and introducing himself to Kaharu or anything like that. And he's actually muttering right during this sort of, you know, inaugural meeting, oh, what's the point? One day we're all going to be separated anyway. You know, there are these factions back on the world, these countries. We're going to be split up. We're going to be sent here, this, that, and the other way. We might become enemies. Why be friends? Why get to know each other and all this kind of stuff? And I find that intriguing as well. Like, what bug crawled up this kid's ass? And is there any truth to that? Is it sort of like an antithesis of a school for extraordinary gifted students, like a la X-Men once again? And is it more, you know, basically preparing these kids to be warriors or soldiers that will have to fight against each other using their abilities? I'm not quite sure. And that's a tantalizing prospect, piecing that together. I love Kakaru's power, you know, very nature-based, you know, summoning the vines that save Kaharu from falling into the water when they have their first encounter, and, you know, like going that much further when they're on this tour. And somehow Kaharu gets a sense that, like, this peach tree is ill, or there's something wrong about it, something off about it. And he's like, oh, maybe there's something off with the nutrients or something like that. And he summons this power again. And he puts his hand on this tree with this energy emanating. And the tree just blossoms and blooms and becomes stronger. I really loved it. There's something magical and mystical. But I love that it's dealing with nature and you know, sort of, not to get too Star Warsy, but the living force, that living energy of the world. And inside this place, like, this is inside the ship Norn, so it's very interesting that there's an ecology going on in there, you know. And, like, basically you have them climbing up onto the top of this tree to get some of the ripest peaches and everything. Of course, somewhat predictably, Kaharu falls, and you even see Senri, you know, watching this, and he's like, I'm not saving her. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to lure me out. Like, he's doing it again. Mr. Kakaru, Mr. Pimp, you know, trying to get with the ladies. And apparently everybody is familiar with this as well. It's like I say, it's like a lived-in, established world. It's not everybody meeting each other for the first time. You know, it's basically Kaharu meeting everyone else. And I'm not exactly sure how long they've been together, but at least it's been long enough that they are familiar with each other. They know each other. And I just like that it's a well-established world. When they go into the water, of course, you see Kakaru using that vine summoning ability once again to try to, like, you know, as they're falling, catch Kaharu, and they end up going into the water because the vines snap. And this is where the reveal comes, sort of part and parcel with, you know, the shock of this particular experience, you know, Kaharu is realizing this was the name she was given. It was a stranger who gave it to her, but somebody who I guess was like a guardian or a protector or something along those lines that, you know, watched her as she grew up, one can assume, and was the one who gave her the parting words. You know, when you are 17, you're going to be looking out for this ship. They're going to be looking out for you, and they're going to take you, and you're going to use your abilities. That's where the abilities you have are going to be very necessary. And to find that she doesn't have much of a memory of her parents, she sort of lost way with her parents, one might presume, with that fire starter ability. She might have inadvertently caused her parents' deaths. If that's even her power, it could be a misdirection and it's somebody else's power, this flame-on ability. But whatever the case, I just love the look and the feel of this world. I love the feel of the characters, how familiar everything is from right off the bat. It doesn't feel like we're just, you know, starting from scratch in the mix here, you know. And I like everything about it. I love the aesthetics. I love the characterization so far. And I really can't wait to see where this is going to go along the lines of what is up with Kaharu's past. And they even get like a cliffhanger in right at the last second as the end credits, thankfully not, you know, completely covering the screen, so you can actually still see what of the episode, what the story is going on. But there's this explosion, and, you know, in the PV for the next episode, it's like there's this ominous tension that's building. Like, we got to get familiar with our surroundings, with this ship. As long as we've been here, we still don't know all of its intricate secrets and all that kind of stuff. It's a journey and an expedition to unfold, not only for Kaharu, but I think even the characters who seem established, that have been here for a little while. I think there are still mysteries that they have yet to encounter as well. And so we're going to be along for the journey. I'm not going to promise, based on this sort of, you know, exalted review, this superlative review, that I'm going to absolutely 100% hold this to episodic review coverage. But that's a highly likely possibility if this continues at this quality, this level of quality, into episode 2. And so, yeah, love it or hate it. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this particular episode, episode 1 of Norn9, Norn+Nonet, or Norn+Nonet, if you happen to know how that's pronounced. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the episode. And that'll be pretty much it for me on this. So I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.